Today's model has a recipe for baked ziti. Let's jump right in as we continue to explore part to part and part to whole word problems using ratios. Cleo is hoping to make dinner for herself this evening using one of her family's recipes. The recipe serves 4 people, and Cleo is cooking for herself. So this reminds me of my family where my mom could cook huge meals for 10 people. But if I used her recipe and used the exact same ingredients, that could be a lot of food because I'm cooking for just myself if I was home alone. So how can we adjust this? Let's look at the recipe for baked ziti. She uses 12 cups of water, 4 teaspoons of salt, 16 ounces of tomato puree, and 8 tablespoons of Parmesan cheese. So let's start off with the first part. Just what is the ratio of water to salt? Let's get some practice in. And just remember, we're looking at order, water to salt. So I'm gonna put water over salt. And let's see, so 12 cups of water and 4 teaspoons of salt. So my ratio would be 12 to 4. And just as a reminder, is this a part to part or part to whole? Well, these are 2 different parts of the recipe. So this would be a part to part, and it's okay if it is an improper fraction because I'm not talking about part to whole. So this is not more than one. I have 2 different parts with different quantities. Let's look at the second one. If Cleo reduces the serving size to 1, so she has the same problem I do. She has to reduce the recipe so that it's not for 4 people, but just for herself. What is the ratio of water to salt she must use? So let's use a diagram to, actually, instead of a tape diagram, let's use math to figure this out. This math will help us find equivalent ratios, and they can be bigger or they could be smaller. So we've made a table. Let's add in the numbers we know. We have water and salt, 12 to 4. And what do we want? We want to reduce it for 1 person. So think about this for a second. Her recipe makes 4, but she wants 4 times less. So we're going to divide by 4. Okay, because she's 1 person, but she wants it to taste the same. So if she has 4 teaspoons of salt, I'm only going to use 1. I'm reducing it by 4. And I'm going to do the same thing to the water. We're going to reduce it by 4. Instead of 12 cups, we're only going to have 3. So here we go. So look how that works. It went from 12 to 4 to another equivalent ratio, 3 to 1. And it's still water to salt. Let's figure out the next one, the ratio of Parmesan to puree. What do we know? Again, I'm going to put Parmesan to the tomato puree. I don't want to use the P for puree because then that sounds really confusing. 8 tablespoons of the Parmesan cheese and 16 ounces of our tomato puree. So I have 8 to 16. And again, I want to reduce this for 1 person. So my ratio is going from 4 down to 1. So I'm going to use my math again. Same thinking, same skill. Parmesan cheese, tomato, 8 to 16. And I'm going to, again, divide by 4. And I get 2. I'm doing the same thing at the bottom to 4. So here are my 2 equivalent ratios. It went from 18 over 16 to 2 to 4. This is my Parmesan cheese to my tomato puree. So again, this helps model my thinking. It shows how I'm reducing my ingredients. So I'm going to hit pause so you can jot this down into your notes. And we are using our math system to help model this thinking. So let's go to the next one. What is the simplest form? Ooh, another good one. This goes back to when we did number sets. The simplest form of the Parmesan to the puree. All right, so we just had this as 8 to 16. What if I get it to simplest form? And for that, again, we're going to use our greatest common factor, or you can just keep using common factors. 8 and 16, what do they both have in common as a factor? If you're like me and sometimes you don't know, you can just say, well, 2 is a common factor. They're both even. So if you need to do this, it's fine. So you will get 4 over 8. They're both even. So again, divide by 2. And you will get 2 over 4. They're both even. So you can keep dividing by 2 until I get to our simplest form. Some of you could have just said, Miss, the greatest common factor is 8. You can just divide by 8 over 8. And you also would have been right. You still would have gotten to 1 over 2. Better you know your math facts, faster some of our math work will be. Let's go to the next one. What is the ratio of Parmesan to water? So let's see. Parmesan to water. Notice how I'm writing it each time to remember the order as I'm expressing my fractions. So 8 to 12. Now, I could, again, put this into simplest form, but it's not asking me to. It's just asking me what is the ratio. So it's 8 tablespoons to 12 cups of water. So I'm going to leave it like this. And in the next question, it says, if Cleo reduces a serving to 1, what is the ratio of Parmesan to water? I'm not going to use a double number line. I want to use math. I really want to get us into that habit of constantly using math. So again, Parmesan to water, we have 8 to 12. I'm reducing it from 4 servings to 1. So I'm dividing both. My pattern is to divide by 4 and to divide by 4. So 8 divided by 4 is 2. 12 divided by 4 is 3. So our table is done. And our last question just asks, what is the simplest form of Parmesan to water? 8 over 12, what is the common factor? In this case, I'm going to use 4 over 4. And you get 2/3. So this is the simplest form of the Parmesan cheese to water. It also just matches our table. I'm not sure if that was intentional or not, but we can use our table. This is a great thing. If you know the greatest common factor, you can use it to make your second ratio in simplest form. You would just have to divide. You would just divide both by the greatest common factor. And so I'm going to hit pause so you can jot this down into your notes. And in the rest of today's practice, you're going to continue to answer word problems that have either part to part or part to whole ratios. You are going to be asked sometimes to create equivalent ratios. They might be bigger, so you can use your math tables to make bigger equivalent ratios, or they might ask you to put it into simplest form so you can use your math table to make them smaller. You can use a lot of your math facts to help you out there as well, math marbles. So if you're getting a little stuck on greatest common factor, use some of your tools from last unit, and that would be really helpful, like your factor trees, factor rainbows. But if you're really struggling, you could also just keep simplifying by a common factor. But that's it for today. We're gonna pause, and I will see you in the next lesson. Keep using math. Take care.